We have Carolyn, who counsels persons with making transitions. This is Carolyn in the red jacket here. And the other person is Joanna. And Joanna has spent 10 years in Lansing State Penitentiary. And she has been subjected to solitary confinement. And in that process, she has gone through the therapy and everything to become a female from a male. And she was in Leavenworth, an all-male facility. So let us give a special thank you to these persons who can inform us as to what may be going on in their lives.
Hi, everybody. Woo! Awesome. This is awesome. There's so many people here. I'm Caroline, and I founded and I direct the Transgender Institute in Kansas City, Missouri. And we take care of, as is my mission for 16 years, trans people, and exclusively trans people. We have a new prison project, and our intention is to get into the prisons and to do training. It's great that people are coming by and tooting their horns. It's wonderful. Yes. Can everybody hear me in the back? All right. Okay, good. I saw a thumbs up, which is awesome. I like to see that. So in any case, Chelsea is having a hell of an awful time in there. I don't have to tell you on one level that she is. She's incarcerated. She's been in solitary. She's also a trans woman who undoubtedly, although has been receiving some care in the form of estrogen and an anti-androgen, which knocks testosterone out of the body, she's undoubtedly being given the wrong care. Yeah. So we can make that assumption that she's probably being given not just the wrong care, but too little of the medications that will make her feel like a whole person. We also hope that in time, well, we hope first that Chelsea is released, and secondly, we hope that in time she will be able to receive her surgery, which is so needed for trans people. So she's been suffering, and my friend Joanna and I, standing next to me, were chatting on the way here about how she probably in solitary confinement is exacerbated. This condition that she was born with, namely transgender, is being exacerbated hugely by the fact that she's been in prison, and by the fact that she's not only been in prison but incarcerated in the most severe way possible, but also in solitary confinement. So this just makes what we call gender dysphoria worse. Any sort of outside influence that's torturous like that will only make gender dysphoria worse. We also believe that she may have what we call a coexisting condition, which may be something like depression or major depression that's going on that maybe she inherited. We're not sure about that, but it seems like maybe that is part of what's going on with the suicide attempts. In any case, we don't know, and we are hoping that we at some point will be able to interview Chelsea and to let her understand that, well, first of all, we're hoping, as I said before, that she's released sooner rather than later in the next 6 weeks. And we want to get into the prisons, and particularly into this prison, and be able to interview Chelsea and let her know with our presence that she is not alone. Because that is, in solitary confinement, the one thing that transgender people need more than anything beyond their medication is socialization. And as with any human being, that's a horrible torture, but to be in solitary. But for her in particular, it's horrible. So we need to understand her completely. We need to understand the specifics of what's called, once again, gender dysphoria. So Chelsea, we wish you well. We are here for you. The Transgender Institute is here for you, and we will do anything we can to get you out of that awful place. And now I would like to introduce Joanna, and you know a little bit of her story from Henry, but she will tell the rest.
My name's Joanna, and I was incarcerated in the state of Kansas for over 8 years. I was housed in multiple different facilities throughout the state. Most recently, or the longest stint I did was in Lansing Correctional Institution. I worked really diligently with administration to try and work towards treatment for gender dysphoria. At the time, in 2009 when I was incarcerated, or 2008 when I had legal trouble, in 2009 when I was incarcerated, there were no outlets for therapy involved for gender dysphoria. At the time it was called gender identity disorder, and they really had never dealt with the issue before in the state of Kansas, and so they had no mechanism in place as far as treatment options were concerned. And so you know, it was really difficult when you're in a men's prison and you're a woman. And so I was intimidated not to continue pursuing that at the time, so I kind of let it go until a Time magazine article came out called "The Transgender Tipping Point" with Laverne Cox on the cover. And I said, oh, now's the time. Now's when I start pushing for this issue. And so I'm actually the first transgender woman in the state of Kansas to be allowed hormone replacement therapy while incarcerated. And I really kind of helped work with the facility to implement some different policies and procedures in place. I can tell you a little bit about what Chelsea Manning is probably going through while in administrative segregation or solitary confinement. She will more than likely be in a small room that's probably 8 by 10 with a bed, a table, and a toilet. If she's in administrative segregation for attempting suicide, she may be in what they call a pickle suit, which is just a green padded suit that's all Velcro, and she'll have security checks every 15 to 30 minutes. Anytime that she leaves her cell, she'll be in handcuffs and probably in feet shackles as well. That's to shower, that's to eat, that's to go to her yard time, which will probably be in a steel cage that's really small. When you're in administrative segregation, you're isolated from all other inmate population. However, there's a lot of people in administrative segregation, and so those units are extremely loud, because when you have no way to like move around or go to a yard or have any activities, if she's in there for attempting suicide, it's doubtful that she has any property whatsoever with her, so she has no books, pencils, pens, anything that she could potentially use to harm herself. I think the most important thing that the prison systems can do is work with mental health care providers, work with the proper people who can get her the treatment that she needs so that she can deal with her emotional state of being. I think that's the most important thing, besides obviously her immediate release. While in I myself, when I first was incarcerated, was segregated from the general population for about a month and a half, just because they weren't sure how to place me. Just because, you know, I appear very feminine, I have a feminine voice and a feminine frame, and they didn't know how to necessarily house me. And so I immediately said, I can't handle solitary confinement because it's very mentally damaging to not be able to have social interaction with other people, to not be able to have social interaction with or programs, to be able to go outside, to be able to see the sun. I've never been in a federal institution. I did state institution. So I can only imagine that the crowd that's here is probably a bit tougher than a state prison. I do know that administrative segregation is a really difficult time. Mentally, there's a lot of anxiety that's present, and I just think that it would be amazing if she could get the proper help that she needs, because she can't leave her cell to go out to call out. She can't leave her cell to go to mental health, so someone has to come, and she's probably only seeing someone for maybe 1 hour a week, if that. And so it's just not enough. She doesn't have the support that she needs while incarcerated to be successful. And I think that's the most important thing for her, is to have a strong support system while inside so that she can better her mental state of being.